Hi there, this is Vadim from Online Training for Everyone. And in this video, I am excited to share with you questions that you might frequently see on the test. We have specifically handpicked the questions from the categories that are most frequently used in the test. And we did it to give you an idea on what to expect. With each question, I will share with you the answer, and if there is a pattern, I will explain to you how to detect it. The questions you're about to see might be different from the actual test, but watching this video from start to end will give you an idea of the different question concepts that you might see on the test. I'm going to ask you for a favor, and no, not to subscribe to this channel, even though you might consider doing this as well. But if you see a different way of solving the challenge in the question, please share in the comment section of this video so we all can learn. And also, if you know about other questions asked on this specific test, please share them in the comment section as well. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm excited to share with you a cool question, which is easy to understand, but which doesn't have an obvious answer. You're presented with the 2x3 matrix. This matrix has arrows inside. There are two types of arrows, solid arrows, and then there are arrows that consist of three different shapes. There are 6 possible spaces in the 2x3 matrix. 5 shapes are present, and 1 shape is missing. You're presented with 4 different choices to identify the missing shape, which is highlighted by the question mark. You have choices A, B, C, and D. Give yourself 10 to 15 seconds to see if you can identify the right answer. Did you figure out the correct answer? Let's continue to see if we can get to the correct solution together. To solve these types of challenges, you always need to look for patterns. And there are 3 different patterns present in this sequence. Let's look at the pattern 1. If we start from the upper left corner and go clockwise, you see that the arrows change alternatively in each subsequent box. Second pattern is that inside the box, solid arrows rotate clockwise. And then the third pattern, which is a little harder to identify, is that the previous arrow points to the next arrow start. This is why the missing part, the part that you would need to identify, contains an arrow placed in the right corner pointing to the left. So the correct answer here is choice B. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar problems in the test. But in case you need more problems and solutions, please make sure to check out my ebook in the description section of this video. This is one of my favorite questions, and there is a very high chance that you will get it on the assessment test. How many triangles do you see? You're presented with the shape on the left. There's a large triangles, and there are also lines inside of this large triangles. You have 4 different choices. Choice A, 9 triangles. Choice B, 12. Choice C, 17. And choice D, 24. 1 triangle is highlighted in red, but there are a lot of other triangles. Do you think you know the answer? Give yourself a few seconds. I would recommend 10 to 15 seconds. This is about as much time as you will get in the real test. You can pause this video to give yourself some time to figure out the answer. I'm going to continue and reveal the correct solution so we can get to the answer together. I counted 12 triangles in this picture. Is this what you got too? Let me show them all for you. I'll start with the smaller triangles, and then go to the medium-sized ones, and then go to the large ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Did you come up with the different answer? Please share your thought process in the comment section of this video so we can all learn from your perspective. Hopefully you nailed this question and got to the correct answer on your own. The types of questions you're looking at is very frequently used on a test. Typically, you're being asked to determine the item which does not belong to the group. And you're presented with multiple items. In our choice, we have choices A, B, C, and D. Each item is represented as a square which contains multiple different items inside. and you need to determine the item which does not belong to this particular pattern or sequence. Do you see the answer? Please take a look to see if you can come up with the solution. Give yourself 5 to 10 seconds, maybe 10 to 20 seconds to see if you can come up with the answer. Did you figure it out? Let's continue to see how we can go and get to the correct solution together. As you might have figured out by now, there is always a pattern that you need to detect to answer these types of questions correctly. And a lot of times, there are items that are designed to confuse you. So let me first walk you through the items that are designed to confuse you. You have small circles, and there are 4 small circles in each of the square. And these small circles do not have any patterns. We also have triangles. Some squares have 2 triangles, and some squares only have 1. But there is no pattern here. The pattern is actually defined by the half circle. And as you can see, all half circles are attached to the corners of the square. You see this in the shapes A, B, and C. But in shape D, half circle is placed in a different location. It is in the bottom middle of the square. This is why the item that doesn't belong to the group is the choice D. So the correct answer here is choice D. Let's recap. The pattern here is that all half circles are attached to the corners of the square. But half circle in the shape D is placed in a different place than the others. The half circle there is in the lower part of the square. This is why the correct answer here is choice D. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. Here's the challenging question you might frequently see on the test. What is the smallest non-negative number that can be described with unique letters? You might have to reread this question multiple times just to understand what is being asked. Let me help you. If we are to clarify this question, you are being asked to describe the number with the letters, and those letters should be unique. For example, in word 20, there are 2 letters T, so 20 is not the word that can be used in the test. On the other hand, which means that 20 is not the word that meets the criteria because it has duplicate letters. On the other hand, word 10 contains all unique letters. So the question is, what is the smallest non-negative number that can be described with unique letters? A lot of times people get the answer 1, and this might be true because 1 is the positive and all letters are unique. But the actual answer to this question is 0, because 0 is neither positive nor negative number, but can definitely be considered as a non-negative number. So the correct answer here is 0. Did you figure it out? Please share your thoughts and the way you approach this question in the comment section of this video. Here's the interesting question, which is easy to understand, but at the same time you will have a lot of fun solving it. You need to calculate the simple expression 12 divided by 2 and then multiplied on the value in parentheses, which is 3 minus 1. Take a look closely and see if you can come up with the answer. There are 3 operations here: division, multiplication, and subtraction. All you need to determine is which one to do first, second, and third. Do you think you know the answer? Let's continue and get it solved together. The order of operations in math tells us that the first expression we need to solve is in parentheses. We first need to calculate 3 minus 1. And obviously the answer is 2. The big question is, what do we do next? The order PEMDAS tells us that we need to do multiplication and division. But what order doesn't mention is that we need to do it from left to right. And what's interesting, the acronym itself is a little bit confusing because it shows multiplication first and then division. But in our case, we need to do division first and divide 12 by 2, and then do multiplication. Once we divide 12 by 2, we get to 6, and the final expression we need to solve would be 6 multiplied by 2. So the correct answer here is 12. Let me give you a quick hint. Even if you don't know the answer, you can always use a calculator. Most modern calculators do support expressions. Let me demonstrate. For example, if you type calculator in Google, it shows the calculator which you can use to solve the expressions. you can preview expression, and once you hit the equal sign, it calculates it for you. And you can see that the correct answer here is 12. Another alternative is to use Microsoft Excel, which is available on almost any Windows machine. Here you can enter the expression right inside any cell. And Microsoft Excel will perform the calculations. So, did you solve this challenge on your own? Was it easy for you? Please share your thought process and your solution in the comment section of this video. Here is a frequent question on the test that a lot of people get wrong. It took 10 hours to complete Project 1. For Project 2, it took 17 hours. What is the percentage increase between two projects? You're presented with 4 different choices. Choice A, 7%. Choice B, 17%. Choice C, 70%. And then choice D, 170%. Take a close look to see if you can calculate and come up with the right answer. You can pause this video and give yourself a little bit of time to better understand what is being asked. Do you think you know the answer? Let's continue to see how we can figure out and get to the correct solution together. To calculate percentage increase, you need to do the calculations. First, you need to determine the increase in hours. To do that, you need to subtract Project 2 hours from Project 1 hours. To do this, you need to do 17 minus 10, and the result would be equal to 7 hours. This represents the increase in hours between two projects. In the next step, you need to divide the increase by original hours. Since original hours were 10 hours and increase is 7 hours, what you need to do, you need to divide 7 by 10. And as a last step, you need to multiply it by 100%. You can do the calculations in your head, or if you use a calculator, you will come up with the same result, which would be 70%. So the correct answer here is the increase was 70%, and the correct choice here is choice C. Did you figure out the correct answer? Please share your thought process in the comment section of this video so we all can learn. And if you need more similar problems to practice for aptitude test, please make sure to check out my ebook in the comment section of this video. I'm extremely excited to share with you the question that tests your pattern recognition skills. You're presented with 3 columns. Each column has 3 numbers. In the first column, we see numbers 2, 7, 5. In the second, middle column, we see numbers 2, 3, and 4. And in the last, rightmost column, column number 3, we see numbers 10, 21, and then 1 number missing. You need to find the missing value, which is highlighted by question mark. You need to find the missing value, and you have 4 choices to choose from. Choice A, 8. Choice B, 16. Choice C, 27. And choice D, 36. Do you think you can recognize missing value? Give yourself 5 to 10 seconds to see if you can come up with the answer. Did you figure out the solution? Let's continue to see how we can get to the correct solution together. The most important skill to solve these types of problems is pattern recognition skill. To recognize the pattern, you need to look closely into each column. Selective values in columns 1 and 2 by multiplication get to the value in column 3, and this is our pattern. Let's take a closer look for the values that are already present. If we multiply 5 by 2, we get to the value of 10. Second set of values represented by the middle row. 7 multiplied by 3 equals 21. So the missing values here can be calculated by multiplying 2 by 4, and the end result would be equal to 8. So the correct answer to this problem is choice A, 8. I also wanted to share with you one of the typical mistakes people make as part of answering these types of questions. People start looking at the columns themselves. But unfortunately, there's no pattern just by looking in the values in column 1, since pattern just doesn't exist. If you look only at the values in column 1, or only at the values in column 2, or only at the values in column 3, you will not be able to come up with the answer. You have to look across and take a global view across multiple columns to get to the correct solution. Can you do me a favor? If you have a better way of solving this challenge, please share your thought process in the comment section of this video. I'm very excited to share with you this question, which we frequently see on the test. Despite being tricky, you will have a lot of fun trying to find the answer. This is one of those questions that is easy to understand, and it challenges your brain and improves your IQ. It also tests your imagination, spatial thinking, logical thinking, and attention to details. Take a look at the picture and see how many squares do you see. Think again. The answer might be more challenging than you think. Now might be the good time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer on your own. Give yourself about 10 seconds. This is typically how much you will get on the real test. Do you know the answer? Let me give you a tip. Keep in mind though that on the real test, most of the time you don't get any tips. But since we're doing it together, I'd like you to consider the possibility of one shape being inside the other. Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. There are 14 squares that can be identified in this picture. This definitely came as a big surprise to me. Do you see them all? Some of them might be much easier to identify than others. Let me draw them for you. There are 9 small squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Even though small squares are easy to see and identify, let's look at the medium-sized squares. There are 4 of them. Number 10, number 11, number 12, and number 13. And then there is one large square. This is number 14. What do you think about this challenge? Were you able to solve it right away? In case you see some additional shapes that we missed, which is always a possibility, please make sure to share them in the comments of this video. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. Here's the interesting question that might get you puzzled. You need to explain why the calculation that you see is correct. And you have a calculation 1 plus 1 equals 10. Give yourself 10 seconds. And let me give you a hint. Try to think out of the box and try to see what else can be going on here besides just the calculations. Do you think you know the answer? Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. Typically, when we do calculations, we use 10 digits in the decimal system. We use 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. But here, calculations are done in the binary system. And there are only 2 digits in the binary system, 1 and 0. So what happens when you get calculation in the binary system and you add 1 plus 1, what looks 10 in the decimal system looks like 2 in the binary system. So the correct answer, this calculation is possible because of the binary system. Let me demonstrate this to you. If you launch Calculator in Windows and then switch to the Programmer Calculator, you can choose different systems. By default, it's a decimal system. But if we switch to binary, and then we can add 1 plus 1 equals what looks like 10, in reality is 2 in the binary system. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. I gotta tell you, I love this question. This is such a unique question, and we see a lot of variations of this question on the test. In this particular version, you are presented with the 4x3 matrix of squares, and then you see 2 additional squares on top of the medium-sized squares. And the question is, how many squares do you see on the picture? Take a closer look and give yourself a little bit of time to find out the answer. Feel free to pause this video if you need more time. Do you have the answer? Let's continue to see if we can come up with the solution together. As you might have figured out, there is a total of 30 squares shown in this picture. Let's start by removing overlapping squares and counting medium-sized squares. There are 12 of them in this picture. Let me count them all for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Once we reintroduce overlapping squares, we can count them as well. They would have numbers 13 and 14. 2 overlapping squares introduce 8 small squares. They would have numbers 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. There are also 6 large squares. Let's give them a numbers: 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. As you can see, those large squares are located in the top row as well as in the bottom row. And last but not least are 2 extra large squares. I gave them the numbers 29 and 30. Were you able to solve this challenge on your own? Did you get to the right answer? Or maybe we missed some of the squares? Feel free to share this information in comments, and I hope this question was nailed by you and now you know how to answer similar questions on the test. Here is the question which tests your understanding of English language, your vocabulary, as well as your ability in logical reasoning. What has 4 legs but can't walk? Do you think you know the answer? Now might be a good time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer. Do you think you found the answer? Let me give you a quick hint. Think out of the box and think of not necessarily something that walks. Did you figure it out? Let's continue to see how we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. As you might have figured it, the answer is chair, and the alternative answer could be armchair, table, or stool. Hopefully you figured it out on your own and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. Here's an interesting question which tests your spatial thinking. How many 4-sided shapes do you see? And you're presented with the picture on the left, which has a lot of different shapes. First, you need to be clear on the definition of 4-sided shape and have a good understanding of what it means. Once you have the definition, you can count all the shapes on the picture that match this criteria. Did you figure it out? Let's jump to the solution so we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. So as I mentioned, first let's do a definition of the 4-sided shape. And the simple definition is that the shape has 4 sides. For example, rectangle has 4 sides, and you see a rectangle 1 here which has 4 sides, and this shape here matches the criteria. Shapes that are covered by other shapes are not 4-sided. For example, we have something that mimics square here, but because it's covered by another square, it is not 4-sided. Actually, it has 5 sides. The key to answering this question is to make sure that you didn't miss any shapes. In fact, it's so easy to miss because some shapes are inside of the other. Let me show you all 8 shapes here on this picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Let's look at inside shapes that form another shape. Shape 2 and 3 form shape 4, and shapes 1, 2, and 3 form a shape 5. Now, was it easy to solve for you? Do you see any shapes we might have missed? Please share your thoughts in the comment section of this video. Here is the tricky question which tests your imagination, knowledge of English words, and logical reasoning. What word can you form using all the letters in the box? And you're presented with the box that contains 9 squares, and each square has a letter inside. Take a closer look at this picture and see if you can come up with the answer. This might be the right time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer on your own. Do you think you know the answer? Let's continue to see how we can solve this and get to the correct solution together. Obviously, there are quite a few words that can be formed with these letters, but the best word will only contain one of each of the 9 letters presented here on the screen. The best solution here is think of the sequence. A lot of times authors of this question put letters in the opposite orders of the way we currently read this. So for example, if we read left to right or top to bottom, they might put word letters that will go in the sequence from right to left or from bottom to the top. And this is exactly the case here. The correct answer here is word beautiful, which starts in the upper right corner. And then you go by the letters B-E-A, U-T-I, F-U-L. And that's how you get to the correct answer, which is the word beautiful. Hopefully you've nailed this question and now know how to answer similar problems on the test. Here is the very interesting question from the real test some of you might find challenging. Despite being tricky, you will have a lot of fun trying to find the solution. Because this question tests your imagination, spatial thinking, logical thinking, and attention to details. Please take a look at the picture and identify all triangles in this picture. Do you think you know the answer? Now might be the right time to pause this video to see if you can come up with the answer on your own. Give yourself about 10 seconds. This is typically about as much time you'll get on the real test. Did you come up with the answer? Let me give you a tip. Keep in mind though, that in the real test, nobody's gonna give you any suggestions. But make sure to consider the possibility of one shape being inside the other. Now let's continue to see if we can solve this challenge and get to the correct solution together. It is mind-boggling, but there are 35 triangles here. Can you believe it? Certainly was a huge surprise to me as I was discovering them. Let me draw all of them for you. I will start by drawing small border triangles. There are 10 of them. Please count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now let's do next 10 triangles. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And now let's do next 5. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Another 5. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And then the last 5, 31, 32, 33, 34, and the last one is 35. Do you think we missed any? Please make sure to leave your comment and let us know if there is even more. Hopefully you nailed this question and now learned how to answer similar questions on the test. I had this question being asked as part of consulting job interview. How many seconds are there in a year? Take a look at the picture. It might give you a hint. Do you think you know the answer? Think of the logic. How would you calculate how many seconds are there in a year? Or maybe there is an alternative. Always try to think out of the box. This would be my hint to you. And give yourself 10 to 15 seconds. This is as much time as you might get answering these types of questions in the test. Now let's continue and get to the correct solution together. Obviously, this is a tricky question, and it challenges you in understanding of the word second. There are two meanings in the word second. One is second For example, 1 minute has 60 seconds. But second one is second, where you have sequence of first and second. And the second meaning of the second is used in this particular question. So if we go back to the question, in a year there are 12 months, and there are 12 second days. 1 second day in each month. January 2nd, February 2nd, March 2nd, and etc. Hopefully you've nailed this question, it gave you some laugh, and you now know how to answer similar problems on the test. Thanks for watching. If you liked the content, please give us a like and consider subscribing. Thank you for your endorsement, support, and patronage. Please also check out additional resources in the description section of this video. I also encourage you to check resources page on our website, howtoanalyzedata.net. Please leave your feedback, corrections, or suggestions in the comment section of this video. And all the best on your journey. I'll see you in my next video.